In this lesson we're going to look at while loops in our Python programming. So this is our 6th lesson, it's while loops. But before we move on to programming, let's have a quick recap from our knowledge recall. You need to pause the video and answer these questions. So what is iteration? You need to put your answer in for that. And also from this unit, name 3 comparison operators and 3 logical operators. So these are mathematical symbols that you can compare with in Python. Then from previous units, you need to explain what plagiarism is. And if you can think back to the start of the year when we did HTML programming, you need to explain what the tag img src does. So pause the video and answer those questions and then resume the video once you've done those. So today we're going to develop our understanding of the Python syntax, that's the language of Python, and we're going to look at while loops. Quick recap on data types. We've got integers, which are whole numbers, floats or real numbers, which are decimal numbers, strings and characters, which is text, boolean, which is true or false. Now we're going to be using boolean today, and we'll also be using integers today when we get onto that when we're programming later, and lists when we're keeping information in a list. Now we're not using lists today, but we have covered that already. So moving forward, syntax is the language, and we've spoken already about variables that we store, so we'll be storing variables at a later date. And just a reminder that you need to save your work and take screen snips of your work and add to your ePortfolio as you progress. So just a reminder what an algorithm is. An algorithm is a step-by-step series of instructions to solve a task, or an algorithm is a step-by-step series of instructions on how to perform a complex task. So it's that process. And just a quick reminder that string concatenation is joining words together. And you can do that in 2 ways. You can do it with the plus symbol, where it completely joins the words, or if you use concatenation with the comma, it joins the words together but puts a space in between the 2 words. So I'm going to move on from variables and input. We're quite good at variables now, and we're getting better about the syntax, what variable names we can use. Just be careful when you are programming that your indentations are correct. Make sure that the gaps are the correct gaps, and remember to use the tab key rather than the space bar. So let's move on now to a new term, which is while loop. So while loops is like a repetition, but we don't know how many times it's going to repeat. It repeats until the rule changes. So it requires a Boolean value, and we use a Boolean value here meaning one or the other. So it could be on or off, yes or no, 1 or 0. In this case we're using true or false. So it's that or that. That's a Boolean value. And the loop will stop when the condition is no longer true. So all the times that the condition is false, it will carry on looping round, and then when it becomes true, it will stop. So with our conditions, we can have examples here. While x is not equal to n, or while our value is greater than another value, or while our value is less than another value, or while our value is greater or equal to another value, or while our value is equal and less than another number. So these are the different conditions we can have. We're going to look at a task here to enter some random text, and I'm just going to bring up REPL for this task, and I'm going to do this one with you. So I'm just going to open a REPL website, and here I am. I've already written part of this. So loop is true, text equals, and I've just put speech marks, so empty text, and quit is empty as well. So while the loop, remember the colon, text equals input, enter some random text. Print your text was, and this is where it's counting the length of whatever you entered. So it's counting how long the text was, characters long. And then we've got a quit. Do you wish to continue? Yes or no. If quit dot upper open brackets close brackets. So what this does is the input you put here, whatever input you put, it's going to convert it to uppercase letters. So if quit is a capital N, doesn't matter if you put a lowercase n or an uppercase n, because it'll convert it to uppercase n anyway. If it's an uppercase N, the loop is going to equal false. And then print the loop is over. So when I run my bit of code, what I'm looking to see, enter some random text. I'm going to write the word text and press enter. And it's worked out that the word text was 4 characters long. Do you want to continue? I'm going to press yes. Enter some random text. So this time I'm going to write Python. And it's worked out that that line, that word, is 6 characters long. Do I want to type again? I press yes, and I can write lots of random text, lots and lots, and it will then tell me how many characters long that is. This time when I want to continue, I'm going to press N. I'm going to put a lowercase n, and remember that my code here turns it into an uppercase n, this dot upper, and I press enter. And it now says the while loop is over. Because I've pressed N, the loop is false. It's no longer going to loop round, and therefore it ends the while loop. We then move into this line. So that's how this bit of code works for writing that information for the while loop. So moving on from there, we can look to guess a number. Let's look what this code does. So we've got number equals 0, count equals 1. Number equals, this is an integer input. Please enter an integer between 1 and 1,000. While count is less than or equal to the number, print count. Count equals count plus 1. So this is adding up all the times we enter a number. And then print the while loop is over. So when we get to a set number that it is, it's going to stop the loop. So let's move on from that one. This is the one that I want you to have a go at. It's a number guessing game. So we've got number equals 23. We know what the number is, but the person doing or entering the number might not. So guess is an integer input. Please enter a number between 1 and 100. If guess is less than or equal to 0, or guess is greater than 100, so if the number entered is not from 0 to 100, we're going to get this message. If the person puts the number 23 in, so if the guess is the same as the number here, it's going to say you are correct, well done. If the guess is greater than number, so if it's 24, 25 all the way up to 100, it's going to say the number was too high. Otherwise, it's going to say the number was too low. So I've got a little bit of code here, and it's very similar. It's just written slightly different. I've got guess first and number 23, and it's written within a while loop. So the task here improves your code so it continues until the user enters the correct number. Now I'm going to give you the answer for this, and I'm going to run this bit of code. So this is what I'd like you to create. I'm just going to run and run module, or in REPL you can just press run and get the answer to happen. So what I'm just going to bring in here so we can see it side by side, I'm just going to resize this a little bit. It's going to ask for a number between 1 and 100. I know the number's 23, but I'm going to put in the number 50. And because 50 is greater than 23, it said my guess was too high. Please enter a number between 1 and 100. So because it's too high, 50 is too high, I'm going to go to 25. It's now saying it's too low. Please enter a number between 1 and 100. Well, I know it's between 25 and 50. So I'm going to put 38 in. It's still too high. Sorry, it's too high at 23, so I can go lower than that. Sorry. Let's go 20 as a guess. Please enter a number, 20. It's still too low, so I'm going to go 23, and eventually I get the correct answer. Now I can modify this code here because at the moment we know what the number is, so it's kind of cheating. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, above this, import a library. Now I've not really looked at libraries before, but I'm importing a random library so that we can choose a random number. And what I'm now going to do is my number is going to be equals random dot randint, and I'm going to say I want a number between 0 and 100. I'm actually going to go, I'll leave it at that, 0 and 100. Now when I run my program, run module, I should get a new question. Please enter a number between 1 and 100. I'm going to go 50. Guess was too low. I do not know what my number is now because it's a random number. It's the computer's picking. So I'm now going to go 75. It's too low. So it's above 75. So I'm going to go 82. It's now too high. So it's between 75 and 82. So I'm going to go to 78 and I guessed correct number. So this is a nice little guessing game number that you can create in Python, put it into your ePortfolio and explain that work. Let's just move these out of the way. Okay, next stage after that, we've got an extension task. So we've got Python is our password, user input, and we've not got anything. So we're now looking to create a password checking piece of program, and again I'm going to show you an answer to this, and what I'm looking at producing is this. I'll explain it through. So password is Python, user input at the moment is blank. While password is not equal to user input is an input, please enter your password. So it's going to keep checking and asking people to enter the password. If the user input is the password, and password here is Python, it's going to say you are logged on. Else it's going to print incorrect, please try again. So now when I run this program, and again you can do this in REPL, and run it in REPL, it's asking me please enter your password. Let's bring this side by side so we can see the code at the same time and you can work out what's going on. So I'm going to put a password in here of just random letters, and it's told me it's incorrect, please try again, please enter your password. I'm going to try password. That's a common password. We know from internet safety and e-safety not to have password as password, and it's told me that that is the wrong password. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to try Python. Now you can predict now whether this is going to work or not. So I press enter, and what should happen, it will tell me it's incorrect. It's incorrect because in the code we've got a capital P here. So I'm going to try Python with a capital P, and it tells me that the password's right. So that's the piece of code that I'm looking for you to add in to your ePortfolio, into REPL, and then put it into your ePortfolio or write it in Python. Either way is fine, it's your choice. So there is an extension task with that. You can have a count in there, and a count equals count plus 1 or count equals plus 1, either way, to see how many times it takes you to guess your password. And then you can have a breakout that if they've taken more than 3 tries to guess a password, it can lock that account out. And this is what happens in the real world with passwords. So you've got a little plenary activity. You know most of these questions now, so just test yourself. You don't need to write these down, the same ones we've had before. So just go over and hopefully you can now answer all of those questions. Remember to submit your work to your teacher. They want to see your REPL code or your Python code. And then also submit your ePortfolio.